Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Play Arts Kai Halo 2 Anniversary Master Chief. This guy is pretty awesome. He is the first Master Chief figure to not be too stylized. Typically the Square Enix Halo figures are a little bit more stylized than some people prefer. I personally didn't mind it, but this one is almost exactly the same as the in-game model, and that's what they were going for with this one, so it's pretty exciting. The Halo 4 ones were pretty close, but they did have a little bit more of that stylized look. This guy does not have that. He stands about 10 3/4 inches tall, so just shy of 11 inches, and he comes with quite a few accessory parts. First of all, we have some interchangeable hands. He comes with fist hands on him in the package. These are the fist hands. You can see the armor sculpted, and all the bodysuit is sculpted very nicely, so that's cool. And then we have some loose hands, kind of relaxed hands. Individually sculpted fingers look very good. We have a hand that looks like this, and this has a very particular purpose. That is for holding the sword, which is done really well. It's nice dark blue translucent plastic with this white shading and pink shading and white line work on there to make it look like it's lit up. It is oversized, so this is the one place that they did do a little bit of stylized design work. As you can see, the sword is very large compared to Master Chief. It'll look cool, but it's definitely not quite game accurate. They did do a good job making it though. So we have the sword, and then we have trigger finger hands or gun holding hands and SMGs. Now the SMGs look like that they would actually have a folding front grip. As far as I can tell, it's all one piece. It just looks exactly like they actually put a rivet in there, but they didn't. So that's fine though. But the SMGs look really good, and the cool thing about them, or one of the cool things about them, other than an awesome sculpt, is you can pull off the stock, but it goes straight back like this. Be careful with this piece, you don't want to break that off. And you can put the extended stock in, so if you have him holding them with one hand instead of two, you have the extended stock, which is pretty cool. And each one comes with this interchangeable piece. And then lastly, we have this piece here. So if you want to put one on his hip, you can do that, because he's got the holes there, and he actually has one over here also. I don't think you would use that probably, but he has that, and he also has one on his back if you wanted to use that. Unfortunately, he does not come with a battle rifle. I kind of wish he did, but I think the SMGs are going to be just fine, because they were kind of an iconic thing for Halo 2, so I'm alright with that. As far as the paintwork goes, it's a very nice shade of green. It looks the way it should for the most part. There are some dark spots. Hopefully you can see on camera, like right here we have a little bit more of a hunter green inside these pieces. In there, it's kind of throughout. It's on the visor here. The visor, this part of the visor, not this. So I'm not quite sure about that, if it's supposed to be there. I don't remember him having different shades of green in the game, but it doesn't really stand out too bad. I think it's okay. It's just a little curious to me. Maybe it's not even supposed to be like that on the figure. I'm not entirely sure. And then he does have some kind of battle damage wear marks, which they did a good job with the blacks and silvers in there. It's not just silver dry brushed on. So that looks very nice, very cool. And then we have the gray / black undersuit, various shades of gray, different levels of finish, a little bit glossier here, a little bit glossier here where it actually is supposed to look like armor, and then we have the gray parts that are actually just the undersuit itself. So very nice looking figure overall, and as you can see, proportion wise, it's not maybe 100% spot on, but it's pretty much the same thing as in the game. So I'm very happy about that. It's nice to have a more traditional looking Master Chief. The visor, sure, it could be shinier, like if they did vacuum chrome, but it still looks good. It does have a nice metallic finish to it. Hopefully you can tell on camera. It looks good though. Okay, so as far as articulation goes, the head is on a double ball peg, neck is on a double ball peg, so the neck itself will move around, and then the head will move around on top of that. We don't really have any big gapping issues. The neck goes pretty far up into the head, which is always a good thing, because then you can move the head around without having any issues. So you'll be able to pose this guy no problem at all. For the shoulders, we have the butterfly joint, more of a traditional butterfly joint, which I do prefer. Interesting thing though, instead of being on a standard hinge, it's on a little ball hinge, so it will actually swivel up and down, which can be useful in posing. And then we have that same kind of ball hinge, just a bigger one in here. So the arm will rotate this way on the ball peg, or on the peg from the ball hinge, and then the bicep swivel at the shoulder is on that same type of peg. So this gray part will rotate around. But we also have a bicep swivel in the armor, so that's going to do most of the bicep swivel actually. And then interestingly, this gray part will also swivel. So you don't have to only rotate the hinge itself, the whole undersuit will rotate, which will help in posing. And of course the ball hinge will also. And that's ratcheted. We actually get a really good range of motion, and the elbow is kind of capped over. It's not perfect, but it tucks in and looks pretty good for the most part. I do think it looks good. I do wish though that they used a gray joint for that, since it's gray plastic. So that would be better. Same type of hinge for the wrist. The chest armor, this is kind of an interesting thing. I'm not entirely sure why it does this, but they made the chest armor movable. You can't tell unless you actually move it. It looks like it's all sculpted, it's fine. But I think they made it so that it can fold in a little bit to make room for bringing the arm around. But then when you do that, it's not going to look right. So I'm not entirely sure why they did that. I think it would have been fine if it wasn't like that. But it doesn't really hurt anything, because this way, I guess, if you just push too hard against it, it'll move instead of scratching or anything. So it's okay, because you can't tell. It looks fine like that. I didn't even notice at first that it had that feature. So it's not a problem at all. I'm just not quite sure if it actually serves a purpose. Maybe there's another purpose to it that I don't know about, but I can't think of anything. So there is that. The upper torso articulation is really good. We can bring him really far forward, really far back. Only at the very farthest back you can get a little bit of a gap in there, but it's not super noticeable even. So the articulation is really good. It does lean side to side pretty well, and of course it rotates. Now the lower torso, we have a little bit of a problem. It doesn't want to move at all for me, and I'm not sure if that's because of the hips. The hips go really far up in there, and that's partially just so that they can maintain that sculpt without making them really narrow in here. So the hips do go kind of far up, and this is kind of thick. So I'm not sure if it's having a physical problem where it's just limited, or if it's actually stuck, but I cannot get the lower torso to move very much at all. So you see how there's almost no gap there? It will be a little bit of a problem when posing the hips from side to side. They don't want to go because they bump up against that lower torso, but they do pose front to back just fine, which is pretty much how you're going to be posing Master Chief anyway. You're not going to have him with his legs spread open like a karate kick or something, most likely. The floating soft material for the crotch piece, they did a really good job with that. It hides the joint nicely, and it's not too bulky or anything. It looks just about perfect, so I'm really happy about that. You can rotate the legs around at the thigh swivel that's in there where the hip connects. You guys should be familiar with the Play Arts Kai hips by now. If not, it's just a ratcheting ball hinge, so the legs ratchet forward and back, side to side. They just don't have a great range of motion side to side. And then there's a socket that the hip swivels around like that. For the knees, it's actually a pretty decent knee joint. It's not too ugly. The only problem is the way the knee armor kind of sticks out, but it's not a big deal. It's not too bad. It's just a little bit awkward looking because it's a bigger joint. They still have a little bit of a big gap up here. It's not horribly noticeable, but it definitely could be better. They're getting better though, so we'll see. Maybe the next one, if they do a Halo 5 one, will be perfect. But it still looks decent, and if you want to just leave the lower leg unbent, that way it's just bent at the top, since he's probably not going to be bent that much anyway. I think it looks pretty good, so I'm alright with that. Then for the ankle, standard ball hinge, so it'll swivel at the top and at the bottom, and you'll be able to rotate it around for an ankle rocker to get that foot going sideways if you need to. And then we also have a ball peg, maybe a double ball peg for the toe, which allows the toe to go up and down a little bit, not a whole lot, but it is there, and it allows it to rotate. You can kind of force it a little bit more to give it some more, and it's not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's definitely a decent joint. Oh, it looks like it's a ball peg and a hinge actually, huh? I didn't notice that. It was really stiff. But so yeah, there's a hinge in there, and then a little bit of a ball peg, it feels like, for the toe. So it's good. You can get some decent posing out of this guy, and he looks pretty cool, I think. I'm really happy with it. If you're a Halo fan, I definitely recommend this figure. There's really not much else to say. It's a really well done figure. Stick around to the end here so you can see some photos of him posed up and in action. But definitely pick one up. I think you guys will be happily surprised with the quality of this guy. It looks very, very nice. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.